This old world is full of sorrow, full of sickness, weak and sore. If you love your neighbor truly, love will come to you the more. We're all children of one family, we're all siblings, neighbors too. If you cherish one another, love and friendship come to you. This old world can be a garden full of fragrance, full of grace. If we love our neighbors truly, we must meet them face to face. It is said, now love thy neighbor, and we know well that is true. This the sum of human labor, true for me as well as you. True for me as well as you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your neighborhood Unitarian Universalist congregation. And my name is Susanne Maziarz. I'm the music director here, and I have your announcements and community events for the coming week. Spirit Choir has restarted. If you're interested in joining our SATB non-audition choir, come talk to me after service. We rehearse Monday nights from 7 to 9 and sing once a month in our Sunday service. Perhaps you'd like something less structured but still love singing. Come check out Circle Singing, Circle Song. It's a way of community coming together to make music completely improvised. That's happening next Sunday from 3 to 5, co-facilitated by Jane Lewis and myself. All are welcome to come check it out. You can talk to me after service. Hatha Yoga has started, led by Christina Keel on Wednesday evenings here in the sanctuary from 7:30 to 9. Please bring your own yoga mat, and you can talk to Christina, who's here in the front row, if you'd like to know more about the yoga sessions. Building Your Own Theology small group is led by Reverend Pat Trudeau, beginning next Sunday after service. The sign-up sheets are in the cappuccino room if you'd like to explore your own theology. In our galleries, to my left in the upper gallery is Ravinder Rupri's Circle, and to my right is Lauren Renzetti's Meadow Meditations. Oh, sorry, the other way around. That's my right, that's my left. Thank you. All are welcome. The show is on till the end of October. Our fall charity drive. Consider donating $100. You get a tax receipt and the opportunity to dedicate a chair to a loved one. You may notice on the backs of the chairs there's little plaques that other folks have already purchased. If you would like one, forms are available in our cappuccino room and in our Monday email. This is limited. We're only running this till the end of October, and then we'll put all the orders in for November. You can talk to Lauren for more info. Thanks, Lauren. And next Sunday, our monthly theme for October is Widening the Circle. Next Sunday, we'll have Reverend Stephen Atkinson here to talk with us about The Sunny Hill, a UU's guide to a distant goal. I will be providing the music with friends, and our service weaver will be Jillian Newcomb.
Oh, Suzanne?
Yes.
Go
ahead.
In less than 4 weeks, our
Can you use the microphone?
live on October 28th, Saturday. So we encourage everyone to check it out on the website. And I want to remind everyone that you can start bringing your stuff in now. We've got a key to the youth room, and we're going to store all the items in the youth room. Also, in the past, many of you have gifted your services, like Kim donates her Reiki services, and other people have donated their massage services. So that's something that we encourage everyone to do. Also, themed dinners. In the past, many of the members have donated dinners based on a theme to invite people to their homes, and it makes a really nice evening. It's very popular with everyone. Also, if you know of any stores on the Danforth or in Leslieville that would like to donate items, please contact them, take a flyer. They're out there. And also look for your hidden treasures, little items that you may not want anymore. I was going through my mother's condo in Dundas, getting it ready for sale, and Betty has lots of hidden treasures that I think would be eligible to put in the auction. So please, we want to get up to over 100 items. We're about halfway there now, so we want to get over the 100 limit. And check it out on October 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good morning.
Morning.
I welcome you to our Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Congregation service. This morning, I'd like to start service by creating a sacred space. I want to ask you to take a few breaths, maybe turn off any electronics that might distract, and be fully present. Take a breath in together. Let it out gently. And again. My name is Allison Kabayama, and I'm going to be your service weaver this morning. Let us read our invocation. Let us cast the circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast the circle of a cherished space here, a space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life. A life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life for ourselves and our families. This morning, I would like to invite Melina Bondy, our speaker, to come forward and light our chalice. We light this chalice to remember, to light the fire within our own hearts. Would like to invite Steve to come forward to join Suzanne for our prelude this morning.
For our prelude this morning, Steve and I are going to share with you a song that I wrote earlier this year. It's a song for Aaron. Aaron is a friend of mine, and I was celebrating the fact that we have stayed friends for 30 years today. Or not today, this year, sorry, this year. And when I was talking to her on the phone, she ended with, "I know I will always have you." And it was moving for me, so I made that the focus of the song. And in today's service, we're talking about how to maintain positive relations. So I wanted to share this song with all of you. Thanks, Steve. Ready?
Yes.
it's true. It's easy to say that I love you, lady. You will always have me. We're soul family till our last day. 'Cause we belong. We belong. We all long for somewhere to belong. We all want to belong. A song for Erin. From the moment we met, our future was set. A friend till the end, Erin. What more could we ask for? More time on the dance floor. Grade 9, once upon a time, decades ago, we started singing together. I went high and she took low. Moves made, hearts betrayed. We know we've got each other. A friendship like no other. It won't ever, ever fade. With Erin, I will always have you. Yes, it's true. It's easy to say that I love you, lady. You will always have me. We're soul family till our last day. 'Cause we belong. We belong. We all long for somewhere to belong. We all want to belong. A song for Erin. From the moment we met, our future was set. A friend till the end, Erin. What more could we ask for? More time on the dance floor. Violet nights and sacred rites. We've been through so much. Though sometimes out of touch, we've still never had a fight. Adoptees in our mid-40s have made the choice to stay. And we're still singing together. May it always be that way. With Erin, I will always have you. Yes, it's true. It's easy to say that I love you, lady. You will always have me. We're soul family till our last day. I will always have you. Yes, it's true. It's easy to say. I will always have you. you.
Thank you for that. Heartwarming. I start by acknowledging the Wendat, the Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas of the New Credit, nations who have lived here before me and are living here now, together with other First Nations, Métis and Inuit. I offer my gratitude to our First Nations for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. I will work to honor those teachings. I open myself to their truths and their wisdom. Good morning and welcome. Our musical director is Susanne Maziarz. Our director of lifespan learning is Julia Thompson. Our contract minister this year is Reverend Pat Trudeau, who will be speaking later this month. Our regular guest speaker, again this year, is Melina Bondy. So grateful that they're giving the message of inspiration today. And Gordon Thorne will be operating our sound desk, and we're adjusting our methods since we are without an additional Zoom tech this morning. So we'll see how it goes. We learn from many traditions. We're open to many beliefs. We welcome all people who are looking for a spiritual community. If you are visiting us in person for the first time, we welcome you especially and encourage you to stay for coffee time. Our services can vary from week to week, so we encourage you to also come a few times to get a better sense for who we are and what we are attempting to achieve and grow and share at this community. Our mission at Neighborhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of our world. Our theme for October is widening the circle, and today's theme is complexity, complicity, and compassion, honesty in relations. Last month, we focused on covenant and community, and I deeply resonated with that message, on that theme, and who, what, and why we are motivated to covenant with one another and this congregation. So I pulled out, we have a covenant chest. We were inviting anyone to share your covenant for this community. And the one that I found here says that they covenant to lead in love, compassion, and grace, to be inclusive in action. So this congregation is not a small club. For the few, we always want to welcome newcomers who are seeking a spiritual community, and we know that by doing so, this community necessarily changes and evolves with the addition of new members and their families. What are some of the challenges and rewards of widening our circle? What might we fear or rejoice when making new or deeper connections with others? How might we more deeply or fully connect within our existing relationships? This puts in my mind the two following pieces. The first was written by Leroy Eldridge Cleaver. Eldridge Cleaver was an American writer, political activist, who became an early leader of the Black Panther Party. In 1968, Cleaver wrote Soul on Ice, a collection of essays that at its time of publication was praised by the New York Times Book Review as brilliant and revealing. This passage is chosen from this work. It takes time and deeds, and this involves trust. It involves making ourselves vulnerable to each other, to strip ourselves naked, to become sitting ducks for each other. And if one of the ducks is shamming, then the sincere duck will pay in pain. But the deceitful duck, I feel, will be the loser. The second piece is a song that we've sung here at Neighborhood, and it's from our Teal hymnal, Singing the Journey. And we're going to sing it together, but the words are building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? So now take a moment to reach out to each other, as it's time to greet your neighbors. After you've greeted a few neighbors, perhaps you might turn to the camera at the back and offer a greeting to those joining us virtually, and Susanne will sound a chime to end. Now please take a moment to greet your neighbor.
Hello, Susan. E. Secret. Gordon.
Good morning, Susan.
Confidence.
Hi, Gordon. Yes.
And everybody in the congregation. Allison. Church.
Building bridges between our divisions. I'm taking my two hands and making a bridge from one expanse to the other by interlacing my fingers. Take one hand, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? I reach out my other hand. With all of our voices, I go from my mouth and send my voice out. And all of our visions, I go from my imagination and send it out. Friends, I scoop you all up in one arm. Hug myself, bring you in. We could make such sweet harmony. That's my other arm, the two of us in harmony together. Let's go over the actions again. We'll sing it, but you're welcome to join in song, in action, or in both. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. And friends, I would like to make sweet harmony with you right now. So we're going to split the congregation in half to do this as a round. Let's have this. I'm down to Lynn. We're going to be this people on this side will be a group with me. People on this side will be a group with Allison. And we'll make sweet harmony instantly by singing this as a round. Let's do it 3 times. Okay? And when you get to friends, we could make such sweet harmony the 3rd time. Let's just loop that line so we can start making some harmonies, more harmonies together in the space. Okay. Let's do it one more time all together and then 3 times as the round. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we can make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to bridges, will you reach out to visions? I reach out to you, will you reach out to visions? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we can make such sweet harmony.
Well, this is the time for all ages, and if you would like to join me, I would love that. Aw, thank you. This is great. I feel so inspired. So, this is Thanksgiving weekend, and if you do celebrate it, I wish you all the best. Have a best Thanksgiving. Before I begin, I have a question for you. Who can remind us of our senses? Who would like to tell us what our senses are, 5 senses? Anybody? Our sense of what? Sense of smell, sense of touch, sense of taste, sense of sight, and sense of hearing, exactly. And there's common sense, and there's our 6th sense. It's true, yes, yes. Don't worry, this does have context for my story. So I was going to tell you the title of my story, but I'm going to wait till the end, and then maybe you can get some ideas as I tell my story for a good title. So, the sun was just rising over the city of Toronto, and Ray was sitting by her window looking out. She turned to her dog, who was still half asleep. Well, buddy, what kind of day do you think it's going to be today? Do you think it's going to be an awesome day? A so-so day? Or maybe it'll be the kind of day where nothing seems to go right. Buddy's tail went flop, flop against the floor. Yeah, I hear you. You don't really think about things like that, do you? Buddy looked at Ray with his deep, soulful eyes, the way only a dog can look at you. Ray felt that he was trying to tell her something, but she wasn't sure what it was. Suddenly, as she looked into Buddy's eyes, she felt mesmerized. It was as though everything was somehow different, as though she had even stepped through a portal. Her senses felt more alive than she had ever felt them before. Ray heard a buzzing sound coming from somewhere outside the window. It was a honeybee collecting nectar from the lavender that grew there. Ray studied its 3 body parts, its 2 sets of silvery wings, its antennae, its 6 busy little legs gripping the small purple flowers. And then she thought about the painful sting of a bee. And then that made her think of the sweet taste of honey from the bee. She had never thought so much about a bee before, she realized. Suddenly she heard a scrambling noise, and she felt something brush next to her arm. And it was Buddy. Buddy was scrambling to take a hold of the ledge beside her. Buddy was 14 years old, which in dog years was the same age as Ray. And Ray thought, Buddy seems to be smelling something. Buddy was sniffing the air. It made Ray think to take a deep breath. She inhaled the smell of lavender and that nice comforting doggy smell and the smell of the city. She realized that she couldn't remember the last time she had taken such a deep breath or thought so much of all these different smells. And then Ray noticed her neighbor outside through the window, and she called out, "Hey, good morning. Do you mind if I join you?" "Sure, come on down and bring your gardening gloves. I have some goodies from the market for you." So Ray put on her gardening gloves and, in the company of Buddy, set out across the lawn. She had not put on her shoes, and she noticed the lawn. It looked like it was so early that the mist, it was like there was a mist with like jewels, sparkling like jewels, covering the lawn. And as Ray walked, she could feel the cool grass and the earth against her bare feet. And she suddenly had this deep, deep and fierce love for the earth. And she began to walk as though she was kissing the earth with her feet. Buddy was sniffing something on the earth, and Ray went over and realized that it was a bird that was no longer alive. She picked it up very gently and she said, "Thanks for letting me know, Buddy." She carried it over to her neighbor and said, "Perhaps we can find somewhere to bury this bird." So together they dug a hole and placed the bird gently inside, and then covered the bird up with the rich, dark earth. "Well, now you can enjoy some of the treats from the market," said her neighbor. So Ray took off her gardening gloves and chose a bright red apple. She bit into it, and she could taste the crispness and the juiciness of it. Buddy flopped down beside her and looked at her again with his solemn eyes. "I know you're trying to tell me something, Buddy." And then suddenly she realized she knew what Buddy had been trying to tell her all this time, and she turned to her neighbor. "We should celebrate today and call it today's day." "How would we do that?" said her neighbor. "We do today. We think of today, of now, just the way Buddy does. Today is the only day that's accessible to us, and we need to treasure it." "Well, let's celebrate today together. Happy Today Day." "Yes, let's," said Ray. And that's the end of my story. So when you wake up in the morning, or whenever you wake up, take some time to take a few deep breaths, take a few minutes in and out. Enjoy your in-breath. Enjoy your out-breath. And make that day the most special day that you can think of. And smile, because, this is a special day, and it's a wonderful way to start the day. And then when you see someone, you can, instead of saying, "Have a good day," the way we automatically do, you can say, "Have a good, happy today's day." And writing this really made me more thoughtful of just being in the moment. Every once in a while I think, oh, I should really do that. And I do that for a while, but I've really been doing it a lot more, and I want to try to continue it because it's a great place to be. There's always things, good things, not so great things, but it's our moment to experience. Thank you.
Okay, so today we are doing something we haven't had for a little while, and that's the question to the community. I have a question for the community today, which is, what makes for healthy relationships? So I'd like to come around the sanctuary here and see if anyone has any ideas or thoughts on what is it that makes for healthy relationships, or what has for you.
Yeah, I think the number one thing for me is communication.
I'll add to that, it's important to be honest but kind with it.
I would say being your authentic self with the other.
I saw another hand go up over there. Oh.
I would say, definitely say patience and understanding.
Trust.
It's a big one. 2. Oh, okay, I'll take 2 more, since they're short.
Be willing to share your secrets. Sometimes it's tough to do that.
Non-judging curiosity.
I see one more hand, and this will be the last one.
LOVE, love.
Thank you for sharing and reminding us as we develop our collective wisdom. This is a unique time in our service when we invite you to share a joy or concern in your life. Today we're going to share a responsive reading. It's also from our teal hymnal. We begin again in love.
So after every phrase that Allison speaks, we will reaffirm ourselves with this tune. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible,
we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For the selfishness that sets us apart and alone, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For losing sight of our unity, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. Melina Bondy, who uses the pronouns they, them, is a queer, gender-fluid white settler who began meditating 20 years ago, taking monastic vows under the Vietnamese peace activist and Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh in 2012. After 6 years in the monastery and a few more outside, Melina returned to a lay life in 2021 and is now a psychotherapist and meditation teacher with an orientation towards embodiment, compassion, social justice, and creativity. I invite Melina to come forward now.
Hello. Very happy to see some familiar Unicamp faces from that former life of many of mine and ours, and new faces and faces from elsewhere. So really happy to be here. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Suzanne, everyone for this service and welcome. Today I wanted to get to share, continuing this theme of building healthy relationships, widening the circle, by looking at complexity, complicity, and compassion. And if we can have the first slide, I want to start with a poem by Rainer Maria Rilke that some of you have probably already heard, called Widening Circles. Next slide, please. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete the last one, but I give myself to it. I circle around God, around the primordial tower. I've been circling for thousands of years, and I still don't know, am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? I love this poem for many reasons. The sense of wonder, possibility, expansion, not just stretching out into the universe, but across the world, opening to all beings. And it reminds me of when I prepared to ordain. I wasn't thinking about enlightenment. I didn't really know what that meant, but I really wanted to learn to love well. And Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings really taught me a lot about loving. And so I was also drawn to this poem because of the complexity it expresses and the uncertainty. That I feel like as we go deeper into communal and spiritual life, we have less and fewer answers, more questions. Like, am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? I just don't know, but it's not a problem. Next slide, please. Rilke also wrote a lot about relations, and in Letters to a Young Poet, he spoke a bit about love. To love is good, too, love being difficult. For one human being to love another, that is perhaps the most difficult of our tasks. The ultimate, the last test and proof, the work for which all other work is but preparation. Reminds me a lot, a number of meditation teachers have said, you may think you're enlightened on retreat, but try going home for a week and see what happens. That's really the test of our spiritual lives. Or being in a congregation and being on a committee is another version of that. And not to put it down, but that it really is challenging. So it's wonderful to acknowledge that. Yes, perfect. Human relationships, learning to care for people and connect, can be so beautiful and enlivening and so very hard. Just like these lovely succulents are so beautiful and so prickly, both at the same time. Our relationships happen, though, not only personally, interpersonally, but they also happen collectively and across culture, across ancestry, across time. So today, being just 8 days after the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, on this Thanksgiving weekend, I wanted to bring in complexity, complicity, and compassion as not the only themes that we need for healthy relationships, but ones that are often overlooked or misunderstood. When I moved to Plum Village in France, where I ordained under Thich Nhat Hanh, I was so excited to live in this mindfulness village. That's basically what it was. We were not silent at all. We ran retreats for over 1,000 people sometimes. You know, I'd spend 8 hours driving the grocery shoppers and 4 hours making tofu, and then, you know, it was very active, but contained. And I was so happy to have this space that I felt I could truly belong in, where we all had this shared commitment to cultivating spiritual life and to being of service. Yet, with the 200 people that I lived with, we were so very different from one another. Different reasons for ordaining, different ethnicities and culture. We were about 70% from Vietnam and the Vietnamese diaspora, and the rest of us were from Europe, the Americas, East Asia, Indonesia, Hong Kong. So just trying to understand each other and learn each other's language was already a big part of our trying to live together. But what really shocked me was how different our orientations to the practice were. For some people, what was most important was following the rules and attending the schedule. They thought, like, if we do that, we'll be okay. Others thought that the work was most important. I fell in there sometimes, but I really did show up wanting deeper, authentic relationships and good communication. Thought that this is amazing. I have 200 people to learn and practice this with. And yet, I was an outlier. We lived in shared rooms of 4 people per room, prayed, played, like we had our whole lives together. There was nowhere else to go. You couldn't just go out to the movies. And so a lot of folks just didn't want any more intimacy than we already had. And it took me a long time to realize that I was very idealistic in my orientation, just like we can be in joining a congregation with this, like, oh, it's going to be wonderful, all these like-minded folks, and we're still really different, and it's still really hard to connect. And it took me even longer to see that I wasn't nearly as good at being authentic in my communication as I thought I was. I did a lot of people-pleasing, had a lot of white politeness. I still do, but less, with moments of vulnerability and authenticity and honesty. And I was heartbroken to realize how hard it is to build real connection, to have healthy relationships, and to accept my own complicity in this thing that I didn't want to have happening, but I was part of it too. So that acceptance of the complicity, the complexity of relationships was really important, even though it was hard. And there's a piece in this, like, heartbreak of how hard it is that's just flat out acknowledging we want to be connected. There is an inherent connectivity, and yet we're so used to a society of separation that to get to connection, we actually have to acknowledge our disconnection as opposed to just pretending it doesn't exist. And so within that, I also found that there was shame. And I know shame's not a popular word, but I think it's way too important an emotion and biological process to just say, oh, that's bad, ignore it. At its biological root, shame is an emotion that arises to let us know when connection is being threatened and to try and motivate us back into reconnection. When it functions well, it actually does that. If you step on someone's foot and you feel that, like, oh, that was bad, it makes you say sorry. And ideally that person goes, oh, it's okay. And then you're welcome back into connection. But a lot of us never learned that kind of version, or we got it sometimes, and then we just got that, like, you're bad, and then there's no reconnection. And so most of us are living with some variation of when we feel bad, we try to avoid it, we lash out and blame others, we turn that not intentionally, but that deep negative self-critic just goes on full blast because we didn't have the experiences of being welcomed back into reconnection. I could say so much more about it, but I think as adults and being part of community. We have to relearn the healthy use of, whether we call it guilt or remorse, or the shame, or the admitting of our complicity in the patterns we don't even want to be part of, but they're happening. And this is part of this radical honesty that is required, and some folks even named as part of building healthy relationships. So to give a story, when I lived in the monastery, a number of us studied nonviolent communication. Has anyone heard of this? Practice it a little bit. So it's a process that involves self-awareness, a lot of communication skills to work through conflict in a different way and to build healthy relationships. But as we were learning, we weren't always all that skillful in our practice. And so one day I was working in the kitchen, which is where a lot of conflict happens in a monastery. And I was working with one of my monastic sisters who we had ordained together. We knew each other very well. We were mostly pretty close. And we were setting out the breakfast on the table, and it's a silent time, and I really enjoyed that silent time. But we were also being treated by a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, and we couldn't eat any sugar. So we were all a little hyper aware of sugar. And so we put down, I had heated up rice milk, and I put it on the table and said, "That has sugar in it, the natural sugars." And I was so annoyed that she was talking. I was like, "Yeah, I know. And she's like, "No, it has sugar, you have to know." And I was like, "I know." I moved on. And she got really angry. And the rule in the monastery, or the practice, is if you get upset, you're allowed to just walk out, go take a walk, take care of yourself, come back when you're ready, especially in the kitchen, because it's just too small of a space. So she did that. And at the time, I just thought, oh my God, she gets angry about everything. I can't stand this person. Okay, well, I know the nonviolent communication steps. I'll do them when she comes back. So as we got ready for lunch, I came in, I expressed what I observed, stated my feelings and needs, made a request, and then she left the kitchen again. And still, I was like, what's the matter with her? And it wasn't until that evening, after not talking to each other for the whole day, but making lunch and dinner, that it dawned on me, like, oh, I'm sitting here thinking that I'm perfect. And that energy is part of this conflict. Yes, she does get angry very easily, and I was being a little bit of a jerk. And in that moment of acknowledging my complicity, that opened the door for us both to have an honest conversation that actually really transformed our relationship. And I imagine, especially those of you who are married, I hope that you've had some of those moments where that argument, that like, turns into the opportunity for deeper closeness that we actually wouldn't get to if we just stay circling around it. And so our relationships have a lot of layers. There's a lot that goes into building good relationships. And our relationships exist within the matrices of society, our social locations, our history, patterns of domination and oppression. These patterns play out in spiritual communities just like outside of spiritual communities. I'm sure you know that, but it needs to be said. So for myself, like, I'm a descendant of white settlers. I didn't create the colonial state, but I am here as a legacy of that system, and I am complicit. I am part of a system that I abhor, yet I'm embedded in it. We're all embedded in systems that are far from perfect. And I know I spent a lot of years thinking like, okay, try not to be harmful, but not being able to imagine anything beyond worrying about being harmful because I couldn't actually face the shame of it, the discomfort, the like, I am part of this too. I was trying to keep it out there. And I could tell you whole other stories about the spiritual practices that really helped me, but needless to say, it was actually learning to feel, to be okay with sensing the discomfort, the physical urge to throw up because it was just so uncomfortable, that actually didn't kill me. And I've seen that time and time again, and that's what's allowed me in my own life, again, other stories I won't get into today, but to engage a lot more with some groundedness to actually develop wider circles of relationships that are true relationships across difference with real love and people that I adore who are now my kin, that we wouldn't have been able to grow if I hadn't been willing to face that. And I've seen it time and time again. This is honesty piece. So if we could have the next slide, please. Rather than just only share my own stories, although I know personal stories are really important, I want to share some really brilliant work. If you're not familiar with the work of Gesturing Towards Decolonial Futures, one of their members is Professor Vanessa Andreotti, who's the chair of Canadian Studies, and I think it's race studies at UVic and education. She's written this amazing book called Hospicing Modernity. Please check it out if you have the chance, or you can just Google her or the collective. There's tons of videos and podcasts. It's a collective of Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists, academics, and others who create pedagogic experiments to share the wisdom of ceremony and decoloniality, mostly in school settings. So they have like tremendous theoretical knowledge, and they express it in ways that like 10-year-olds and 18-year-olds can understand, which I think is extra amazing. And so one of the core concepts that they work with is that they use this word separability being at the center of the myth that upholds colonialism, modernity, all ecological and social violence. And so earlier we were singing about recognizing our separation is so much of what harms us, and they put this at the very, very center of the work, as many do. Recognizing that actually, in reality, we are inseparable. And the reason it hurts to be disconnected is because we are inseparable, and yet there are experiences of separation that happen all the time. So rather than keep telling you about their work, I want to invite us into a time of meditation where I'm actually going to read one of the poems, which is a reflective practice that they share. And it's found in this book, if you're wanting. And it's an excerpt because it's very long, but we will have the words up here. But if you're able to tune in just by listening, I welcome you to, rest your eyes, soften your body. But if it's helpful for you to read the words, then they're here. I may not read every single word, but we'll get through it. So, great. And Suzanne will invite the chimes between each line to really encourage us to sort of soak in, line by line, these invitations. So the poem is called Co-Sense with Radical Tenderness. Co-sense with radical tenderness and tune into the collective body, both human and non-human. Take note of all the skins and places we inhabit, the bones and the lands that bear our weight. Feel your entanglement with everything, including the ugly, the broken, and the messed up. Relate beyond desires for coherence, purity, or perfection. Be open to the gifts of disillusionment and dissolution. Co-sense with radical tenderness and make space for the unknown and the unknowable in ourselves and in others. listen to non-human authorities and care about our relationship with them. Learn from repeated mistakes to make only new ones in the future. Face your complicity in violence and disinvest from arrogance, superiority, and status. Offer the gifts of your failures. Deactivate your expectations for belonging and focus on unlearning the logic of separability. Collectivize your heart so that it breaks open and not apart. Understand that the earth is not an extension of our bodies, it's the other way around. Look at painful and difficult things with the love of really wanting to see. Can you sense, not just as an individual, but as a part of the human whole, this radical tenderness that can embrace complexity and complicity with compassion? Thank you for joining in this meditation. Just a few more bits before closing this message time. I think we'll actually skip the next slide. And I want to just share a practice perfect from the Plum Village community called Beginning Anew. It is created as a conflict resolution process, but it's also a community building process. And I imagine most of you are familiar with variations of some of these aspects, but there's something kind of beautiful in the whole of it. The first is to take steps of, we call it watering flowers or expressing appreciation. The second is sharing regrets. The third, expressing hurt. And the fourth step is sharing long-term difficulty and asking for support. And we would do this both in ceremony, in informal gatherings, and one-on-one. So I put a little, some of my commentaries of, this actually needs to be a very honest process, because I think a lot of us have learned to both express appreciation and make apologies without necessarily learning how to do it honestly. It's more performative, right? And so there is a practice, there is something to cultivate in learning to get more honest in expressing gratitude and apologies or regrets. And the thing about this process is that you can do steps 1 and 2, and really 4, but 1 and 2, with anyone, anywhere. They don't have to be practicing it back with you. You don't have to have a conflict. I even knew one teacher who said, if any community wants to do this process, you need to practice steps 1 and 2 for at least 6 months together before there's likely to be enough connection, trust, to go into where it hurts and where there's been harm, which kind of blew me away, but I also saw that it was quite true. And that you also have to be aware that like you're not necessarily going to go through deep conflict process with everybody. To be very intentional about who you choose to go through this with. But if it's worth it, then there's something about starting with expressing appreciation first before the hurt, and expressing your own complicity and shortcomings that tends to tenderize both people's hearts and makes it more possible, no guarantees, but does make it more possible. And I know I only went through this whole process, I think 2 or 3 times with specific people, and it was quite remarkable. Other times I wanted to and the other person wasn't willing. Sometimes I thought that I did it and I wasn't really willing. So it's part of this honesty. But I particularly wanted to share it because I think that there's something just very compassionate in this approach. And like I said, you can do the first 2 steps, especially the first one, at any time. So on this Thanksgiving Day, where there's a lot of expressing of general appreciations, if you're up to the challenge, and I'm going to put myself to the challenge too, I want to invite you to try actually expressing appreciation out loud to someone specifically. Just to like, thank you so much for getting all the candles out there. Thank you so much for sharing a song that you wrote for your friend with our whole community. Little thank yous, and we might say some of them, but just with a little more awareness, maybe say a few more. You don't have to say 3 to 1 person, but there's something in the doing of it that I know for myself, I thought like, oh yeah, I totally do that. And then it was uncomfortable, so I realized I didn't do it as much as I thought I did. And the same thing with expressing regrets. And from this honest thank yous and sorries, I think that that's part of what really builds the foundation for a truly inclusive community that has healthy relationships, which is the theme of today and right now. So may we truly widen our circles as they are complex, as we are complicit in what we don't want to be part of, and with tremendous, boundless compassion for the beauty of letting ourselves be messy and continue, because it's still worthy to build good relationships. So thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Melina. Thank you very much. So this congregation is a living entity. And like all living things, it must have nurture and sustenance. And so I'm going to the ask for the money. That if you contribute by pre-authorized withdrawals or post-dated checks, we thank you. Some of us contribute via the baskets that are passed to collect your offering, and we thank you for that too. We ask you to be generous, and as we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm our lives within it. Greeters, can please bring the baskets to me when the money is collected. If you have found love and acceptance here, if you have found home here, if you had known kindred spirits here, let this offering be a token of gratitude for the common life as we build the common good.
For our closing song, we're going to sing together filled with loving kindness, words from a traditional Buddhist meditation. First time through, we're going to sing for ourselves, may I be filled. So start with ourselves, may I be filled with loving kindness. Then when we repeat the song, we're going to hold someone in our mind that could use some loving kindness. May you be filled. And third time through, may we collectively be filled with loving kindness. This congregation, you could think bigger than that, to our city or maybe even to the whole world. I invite you to rise in spirit or in body as you're able to sing together. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. We'll repeat with you. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. We'll sing, may we be filled. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole. May we be
I invite Melina to come forward to extinguish our chalice as we sing our chalice extinguishing song.
Although our chalice has been darkened, we hold the fire within our own hearts.
A closing blessing, words of compassion from my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. You're welcome to join hands or elbows if you choose. Remember that one compassionate word, action, or thought can reduce another person's suffering and bring them joy. One word can give comfort and confidence, destroy doubt, help someone avoid a mistake, reconcile a conflict, or open the door to liberation. One action can save a person's life or help them take advantage of a rare opportunity when thought can do the same, because thoughts always lead to words and actions. With compassion in our heart, every thought, word, and deed can bring about a miracle.